If you're lucky, once in a lifetime you meet someone that profoundly changes your life. A person that through their own triumph over challenge, fortitude, vision, grit, heart, and sheer determination inspires you to believe in yourself a little more. For me, that person was Erica Heller, a friend to me, a mentor to my 3 young daughters, whose extraordinary courage and faith through her battle with cancer, and her words of acknowledgement to everyone she encountered, ending every conversation with the empowering words, "I just want you to know I think you're amazing because," inspired a flash mob that went viral and created a global community. I Believe She's Amazing is a series that honors Erica in an ongoing celebration and in praise of the amazing girls and women we walk shoulder to shoulder with, from all walks of life, doing extraordinary things and leading by example. I'm KimMacGregor, and I thank you for tuning into this story. Okay, welcome to I Believe She's Amazing. My name is KimMacGregor, and I am super excited today to have a special guest, this beautiful young girl that I had the privilege of connecting with actually on Instagram. Instagram's amazing for connecting with so many phenomenal people. And I get the privilege of sharing with you who this girl is. I feel like she's an old soul who's already done so much for her incredibly young age. And as we do so often on social media, it's just like fangirling over you, Lieutenant Kellie. And just like, who is this girl? I want to know more. And I was doing some background research on all the amazing things that you were up to. And thank you so much for taking my call and filling me in a little bit more on this beautiful epic journey that you're on. So I want to just start by saying just a tiny little bit about who you are, and then you can elaborate, and then we'll get into our conversation. So one of the things that caught my eye about Kellie is that she is a blend of so many powerful, strong things, but with this beauty and grace and femininity that we don't always see, that combination of everything. So she is an active duty naval lieutenant. She's in recruiting for the Navy. And I know you come from a family of people in the Navy.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
And she's also a beauty pageant contestant. She is also a photographer. She's a little entrepreneur, just dabbles in a whole bunch of different things. She does so much for women's empowerment, you can imagine, on so many different levels, and is taking a step back into pageantry and is for Miss California USA. So hello, like, when do you sleep, young lady?
I feel like I don't, but somehow I squeeze it in. My body's just like, you need to take a pause. And I'm like, oh, yes, it's right now. And then I just fall asleep. So.
Standing up. So Kellie, just start a little bit with how this started, like your background. I know you were a high level competitive athlete as well. How did your interest, let's start with the Navy, because I think that's kind of one of the most intriguing things about you. How did that all start for you? You're only 27, you've done so much.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, it's funny because like nothing was like meticulously planned or coordinated. Everything that's happened to me so far has really been like happenstance or influenced along the way, but it kind of was up to me to grab it by the horns. So you'll see that theme kind of consistently throughout my story. But with the Navy specifically, I think early on, like when I was a real young girl, we're talking third, fourth, fifth grade, I always noticed that like I was kind of the leader of the group. Like at recess, I was like leading the spy kids on the playground, or by eighth grade, I wanted to run for class president and ended up being class president until I was a senior in high school. So like the little things, little to me now, but back then they were huge things. And you know, when it came time to look into colleges, I was being recruited for track. And you know, me being feminine and bubbly, and I did some cheerleading alongside of track, and just loved wearing makeup and you know, cute clothes. The Navy was not on my radar whatsoever. So as I was being recruited for track, I was looking at Alabama and LSU and all these SEC schools and Princeton, and like, ooh, yes, I'm gonna be legally blonde. I can't wait. I just had this like perception of what fit my mold and kind of what was in my path. And service wasn't one of those things, but my father has had a 30-year career in the Navy and always spoke so highly of it. So they didn't really force me to do it, but they were like, have you thought about the Navy? And I was like, no. People in the Navy aren't like me. Like, they're all robots. What are you talking about? So, long story short, when the time came to apply to college, my dad encouraged me to apply to the Naval Academy. And I kind of like, grunted. I was like, oh, okay, Dad, great. You're just kind of forcing me into your legacy. Like, I don't want to be in the Navy. I'm your daughter. Like, blah. And then when I started looking at other colleges, the last college visit I went to was the Naval Academy. And I realized how spectacular and special it was. It was different than every other university I saw. Every other university, they had great social clubs and sororities and really awesome branding for their athletic teams and fancy locker rooms. But the Navy was tough and it was hard. And students were walking around with so much respect, and they were holding themselves higher, and they were wearing uniforms, and they were in these really tough classes. And I just had this feeling like, I'm gonna go into the Navy because it was the harder choice. And the most impactful thing, which this woman has no idea, but I had a team dinner the last day of my college visit at the Naval Academy, and the captain of the cross country team said that she was in a similar position as I am. She was between Penn State or the Naval Academy, but she knew if she looked back on her life, if she didn't choose Navy, she would always wonder what if, because that was the harder, more difficult choice. She's like, I know what my life will look like if I choose one of these civilian colleges, but I don't know what my life's going to look like if I choose the Navy. And she's like, I don't want to look back in 5 years, 10 years and wonder, what if I had joined the Navy? What if I'd gone to something super challenging and difficult? And 17-year-old Kellie was like, crap, I'm going to go to the Naval Academy because I have to do it. Like, now I have to put myself in this really challenging position and see if I can do it. And it's very atypical for people like me that are 5'2" and 100 pounds and, girly and all those things to go into the Naval Academy, but I had to do it. And so that's really what got me started. And of course, my parents were thrilled to carry on the Navy legacy. I was the youngest of 3 daughters who ended up joining Navy. So it kind of was the bookend in the family. And it's definitely been the same since I started my career 10 years ago. It's been challenging. It's been difficult. It's been, unexpected, but that's exactly what I signed up for. So it's been awesome.
Unbelievable. What an incredibly young age to make such a massive decision, for sure. So this is my own ignorance, but I'm probably like everybody else watching. Do you go through the same grueling training? I know you're in recruiting, and I know you're like 5'2", you're just a little tiny bit of a thing. Do you go through the same grueling training that everybody else goes, men and women equally?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So for the Naval Academy, it's not boot camp, which is in Great Lakes, Illinois. It's a different sort of commissioning training program. They have officer candidate school at the Naval Academy, do something called Fleet Summer. So it's kind of like your boot camp leading into the Naval Academy. But then it doesn't stop there. All 4 years at the Naval Academy is its own training. So all 4 years you're doing, 15-mile hikes or, ruck runs with, stuff on your back, or you're doing sea trials, which means you're doing PT in rivers and oceans, and you're going on ships, and you're going on submarines, and you're working with Marines. So you do all of these things. And I think being 5'2", I knew I would have a disadvantage, but being an athlete and, a pretty successful athlete at that, because I was being recruited to run, it definitely helped me. So you do have to go through the same things. And my career didn't start in recruiting. I was actually a surface warfare officer, so I was on a ship first. So I kind of followed the traditional pipeline out of the Naval Academy and then later transferred into recruiting. So now I have this like super happy, like, flowery rainbows and butterflies kind of side of the job, because I get to smile and talk to people and recruit them. But initially, that was not it. So 10 years ago when I started this journey, that was not the case.
So education was 4 years.
Yep.
So you've been 6 years active duty post education?
Yes. So the commitment is 5 out of the Naval Academy. And then after you finish that, you can either get out or stay in. And I just promised myself that as long as I'm loving it, that I'll stay in, and that it follows my plan and God's plan and my boyfriend's plan too. So far we're loving it, and I'm just gonna take it every year, see how much I love it.
I love that, because that's another thing that I was drawn to about you, is your openness to so many different things. There doesn't seem to be this rigidity to what Kellie Hall does. There's this real openness to, let's try that and let's explore what this is. And I know you just did like a cross-country move with your boyfriend.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? That's a huge decision too.
It is. And luckily for me, I have, I believe so much in finding like your independence in yourself, even maybe before committing to someone or something. Obviously, early on, I committed myself to my service to my country. So that was a lesson learned in itself. But now I'm committing myself to someone in that seriousness of a relationship. So I'm happy that I went through this move to Los Angeles, my 10th move in my life. So after having moved around all the time and experienced a lot of that alone, I kind of knew what to expect. But, for him, this was his first move to Ohio, out of Ohio. So I was like, okay, brace for impact. Like, I know I need to be there for him. He's going to be without his family. And I knew that we were really going to have to rely on each other. But those years of being independent and being alone, I kind of knew what I was looking for in a partner. So I was like, he's going to have to be resilient. He's going to have to be strong. He's going to have to be a partner. He's going to have to be someone I can rely on. And when I met him, it was unexpected, but it fit all of those wickets. And I knew he could balance the lifestyle that I have. So cross country was fun. I was actually really excited just to sit for like 4 days and not do anything, because I'm always doing like 100 things, which I love and I'm so passionate about them. But sometimes you just need to like sit in a car in the middle of Kansas and not have anything going on. So like, we survived the drive and we made it, which was great.
What a totally different pace for you.
Oh yeah, doing nothing. Never do that. I know.
Awesome. And how is that? Because whether it's, regardless of whether you're male or female, to have your partner decide to pick up, and I know you guys are obviously very committed to one another, but you're not married yet, right?
No. Yeah.
What an incredible level of commitment. What would your advice be to somebody who is in a very serious relationship but looking to make a move and wanting their partner to come with them? It isn't always this beautiful story, but what would your advice be?
Similar to, again, you'll see this similar theme like throughout my life, things that I reflect on. So similar to that decision I made with the Navy, like, you don't want to look back on your life and wonder what if. My boyfriend Austin, we met and I already knew I was moving. But actually, the day before our first date, I accepted my orders to Los Angeles. So crazy timing. I knew I was leaving, and I knew the right questions to kind of ask to preface it, like, oh, have you already thought about leaving Ohio, or are you an adventurous person? Again, I was kind of drawn to his personality and how he is. So the first thing would be, again, don't know like your traits and like what you're looking for, and don't force them to be that person. Like, you need to know what you're looking for, and then wait for it and be patient for it. So although it wasn't timing to meet someone, he literally had every attribute, and I was like, wow, like, he is an incredible partner to potentially move forward with. Like, he's not looking to hold me back. He's looking to move me forward. And then when it came to the move, again, he knew the entire time we were dating, like, I was leaving, and we were just trying to like embrace the time that we did have together. But after talking with his friends, his family, and ultimately my parents and myself, I gave him that same kind of advice. We are very in love, but that's not always like enough to sustain long distance or sustain moving together. You have to have it all, the whole package, the long-term goals, like the values. And so I told him, and so did some of his friends, like, are you going to look back on your life and wonder, what if I moved to LA? Like, what would my life look like now? Because you can always stay in Ohio, but you may not always have this opportunity to move to Los Angeles with her. And then, God forbid, our relationship didn't work out. You might think, what if I moved with her? And, we had built that life together. So he kind of knew early on that he was ready to take that leap of faith with me. And he really is my best friend. So it kind of worked out like just taking this leap, moving forward, having that foundation. But I tell you, none of it would be a success story. Nothing is fairy tales and butterflies. You really have to establish those standards yourself before. And, you know, you mentioned we're not married. And the reason is because I have goals before marriage. Not saying that you can be married and not have goals, but one of my goals is becoming Miss USA, and you're actually not allowed to be married and be Miss USA.
Wow. Wow.
So exactly. So that having been my goal for about 4 years now, in my eyes, like I am only 27, so I have time. 2 years, 3 years, like I'll get married and engaged, and I'll have that part of my story in my life. But this is the time for my dream, because the max age you can compete is 27. So after this year, I can't compete anymore.
Wow.
So yeah, and he knew that, he's aware of it, and he's on board with it. And he's like, that's fine, I'll be here. I'll be here whenever you're ready. And I'm like, perfect, thank you. Let's go, Born Miss USA.
Oh my God. So, okay, so that's a great segue into the way that you have planned or executed, or has it been happenstance? I know, you know, the story about entering the Navy, a little bit happenstance for sure.
Right.
Like, it's so great that you put yourself there to experience what it was like. And for sure, I'm, you know, having your dad be in the military, and I love your pictures of you and your dad, are just the cutest. Oh my gosh, I love it. But tell me about that planning. You know, Kellie, for a 27-year-old, you have your act together and you know where you're going, and to have the foresight really to be able to map out, yeah, I want to do these things, I want to check these off. Talk a little bit about that in a way that, you know, you could lend some personal advice or experience to other young girls who maybe don't have that clarity of vision. How have you gotten that for such a young age?
Well, thank you again. And a lot of the direction has been assisted through my parents. They just kind of told me, even when I was a kid, right, grab life by the horns, don't hold yourself back, like you really are capable of anything. So like I grew up believing I could be the president, so I was like, yes, like I can do anything I put my mind to.
I love it.
And that's a great foundation for anyone, you know, especially if you're a parent raising a child. Like, you know, don't necessarily raise them to be dreamers and have their heads in the cloud. Like if they're my sweet boyfriend, he's short like me, and he wanted to be a professional basketball player. So his dad was like, well, I don't know if that's going to happen, Austin. You know, not necessarily navigating them toward things that may not happen, but inspiring them and helping them find that confidence. So my parents have always made me feel very confident. And as I got older, I started realizing how fast time flew. So this was when I graduated from the Naval Academy. I was 21. And a year after the Naval Academy, I was just like, you know what, let me just chill for a minute. Like, I just went through the Naval Academy, I'm going on deployment, like I don't need to do 100 million things like I'm used to doing. And then I blinked and a year went by. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, where am I heading with my life? I have all these things I want to accomplish, and then you blink and a year goes by. So I realized at 22, you need to just do it. You need to not just put off all of these goals. Like, you need to attack it. And there's absolutely nothing holding me back, especially in my 20s. I'm like, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have financial commitments. The Navy just paid for my college. So what, like, why am I just lounging on the beach and getting brunch and not attacking these things that I want to do? And so that's where entrepreneurship landed. I was like, I think I'm ready to take my business into, you know, a part-time thing and be a wedding photographer. And I was like, well, let's do it. You know, I don't have obligations on the weekend. I can do photo shoots and weddings. And then same thing when pageantry fell into my lap. I was kind of like, I mean, why wait a year? Why wait 2 years? Oh, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. Every time you go through these experiences, you're growing and you're learning. So I feel like too many people just keep putting off life. They're like, oh, next year I'll go on that trip, or next year I'll start that business, or tomorrow I'll start that blog, or it's on my to-do list. Do it now, because life's only going to get harder. And I realized that. And so in my 20s, I was single. I didn't have kids. It was just me. And I'm like, before any of that stuff comes along, I need to attack these goals I have now. Because, now I'm in a relationship, and the first thing that popped into my mind when I decided to compete for Miss California was, am I being selfish? Like, that's money we could be saving for a house someday. And then he was the one that was like, no, you do your dreams, like you do your goals. We will have time to do that. And I'm like, you're right. And I knew that would be how I responded to life is, oh, it's selfish for me to do a business, or it's selfish for me to compete. So I think I just embraced those moments when I was living independently and realized not to wait anymore. So a lot of it was happenstance, but it was also a little bit calculated because, like I said, Miss USA, the max age is 27. I knew I needed to compete while I was in my 20s. Entrepreneurship, I wasn't in college anymore. I wasn't struggling with work or anything like that. Like, I had time to build a business. So if you have free time, like what I keep telling everyone is, like, if you have time to watch Netflix, you have time. I promise. Like, you do. You have time, but you just think that you don't have time. So instead of watching Netflix, I made a website. I built a business. I did all of those things.
Yeah, I love that, Kelly. I love, and kudos to your parents, honestly, for raising such a profoundly smart, independent, but still, you're still open to relationships. You really do have this beautiful mix of what it is to be a woman, the feminine side and the smart side and the disciplined side and all that stuff. And that's amazing. I think that's beautiful. Tell me a little bit about your ability to, again, like, I think it's so cute. Like, 1 year went by. Isn't it the truth? Like, wait till you're 50s. And it's, oh my goodness. Exactly. But at such a young age, to have that ability to say, wow, that year just like passed by so quickly. Mm-hmm. So when we live in a world where busy is like, we're so proud, we wear it as a badge of honor to be busy. And you've clearly found the ability to transition much of your day in, from being busy to being productive. You're seeing things to the finish line. How do you structure your day? Do you watch TV at all? Do you scroll on social media? Like, what does your day look like that might be different for somebody else who's like, yes, I want to do all these things. I just haven't found the way to actually be able to do that.
Right. Well, one, I recently heard this podcast. I think it's called like the doer's disease. And it starts off with most Americans, you ask them, oh, how are you? How have you been? And they say busy. Every single one of them. To the point where it's almost like a status thing. Like, if you're not busy, you're wrong.
Yeah.
So first I would challenge you, if you're busy, what are you busy doing? Like, are you busy wasting time? Are you busy socializing? Are you busy building a business? What are you busy doing? And I am pretty freaking busy, but I still try my best to make time for what matters. And I'd say the first person who kept me centered was my mother, because I was so busy like building a business and building my career. She'd be like, are you dating? Are you dating? And I'm like, Mom, like, I just promoted to lieutenant. Like, how do you not care about that? And she's like, okay, but like, are you dating? And she was right. Like, I still needed to make time for that and carve that out. Yeah. So I can't promise that I made it a weekly priority, but maybe bi-monthly priority. And I was always very clear with whoever I was dating, like, Austin, I'm free next Thursday. And he'd be like, you're not free at all this week? And I'd be like, nope, I got too much going on. I have, I want to be Miss Ohio, so got to work on my goals. But I'd say now I have him to keep me balanced. So he reminds me, sit down. I think he said that like twice already today. Like, just sit down. And I'm like, I don't have time. I gotta hang up pictures or do laundry or do that. So it's good to have someone who keeps you centered. And whether that's a best friend or your mom or a neighbor or whoever it is, and then you have to actively carve out time to relax. So I call that my gray space. That's what we call it at the Naval Academy. When you have that gray space in your calendar, nothing's really scheduled. So now, and same thing with him, I have to carve out date nights a week in advance so I don't book anything. because I've, my evenings are either I need to edit tonight, or, I need to work on my walk for the pageant, or I have a personal trainer when I'm going to schedule sessions with him, or I'm going to do an interview, or I have a modeling shoot. Like, all of these things book up my time. So before I spend Monday through Friday working, I'm to put in there, nope, Thursday's date night. Like, no phones, time with my friends, whatever it is. Or Sunday, like church. Like, I literally have like watch church on every single Sunday, 7 p.m. Like, carve out that time. So I live on my Google Calendar, but just make sure if you're busy, like, you're busy being productive, and it's pushing you toward your goals, because you will look back and be like, wow, I wasted the entire week doing what? Came home, I sat on the couch, then boom, I watched Netflix for 3 hours and you didn't get anything accomplished. So I still do all of those things, but they're pretty scheduled. Like, I call it, it's almost like splurging sometimes, because if I'm sitting down, like, I should edit, if I'm watching TV, like, you can edit at the same time, but then there's nights where, like, put the laptop away and don't do that. So just balance, a lot of balance for sure. And looking on Sundays what your week looks like, and if you're participating in things, like, are they things that are helping you advance toward your goals? Especially with me with the pageant, like, if I'm doing photo shoots, are they photo shoots that I can post? Are they photo shoots that I can share? Are they photographers who don't get work back to you, and then you don't have anything to really show for that time? So that's one thing that would get frustrating, is you would put in all this work doing different things, but then you don't have anything to show for them. And the whole point of you participating in certain areas of your life is to build that portfolio for yourself. So just take a step back, make sure everything is helping you develop toward your goals, and then don't forget to live. But if you need to plan that and factor that in your schedule as well, because that's definitely what's helping a lot.
Yeah, and I would agree. I'm an entrepreneur too, and scheduling and planning is the most important thing, and that does include your downtime and your family time and your significant other time. So
Right.
good for you for doing that. That's amazing. I know you've done lots of speaking engagements, and I'm sure that with the Girl Scouts, and I know you had your own interview. Didn't you do like interviews? You did your own documentary. Like, you've done a lot by way of media, which is amazing, and so you should. And I know, both when we talked and even just scouting you out online and seeing some of the stuff, I know that you have a real commitment to empowering young girls and women, and I think it's great. And you are a really great face for that. You're a great role model, not just because you're beautiful on the outside, which you are, but you're beautiful on the inside. You have a really great class and sense of value about yourself that I really find quite appealing and very attractive for what a role model should be. It's like very, very, very tastefully done, very well done. How do you walk that fine line? I know you've got great representation on social media for both of your accounts, which we'll definitely tag here. How do you walk that fine line, and how do you make decisions about what you're going to post? Because you do it in a very classy way.
Well, thank you. That is actually one of the biggest things I've loved about pageantry. Again, I still didn't even classify myself as a pageant girl, but pageants are very much a business, and I'm a businesswoman. So I love attributing to what I learned in pageants to the business world. And, pageantry has helped me in recruiting, which has helped me with social media, which social media helps with recruiting, and then sales. And it all circumnavigates, it all comes back to each other. So I'd say that with social media, if you're not worried about branding and how you carry yourself, you're going to just aimlessly post. Nothing will have a theme. You'll have bottles of Grey Goose in your hand, and you'll be at clubs, and you'll be like, whatever, I'm in my 20s, beach body, like, here's me on, at the pool. But what I had to take a step back and realize through pageantry, a lot of it is, who are you? What do you stand for? What are the 3 keywords that are attached to you, and is that carried through your brand, your social media? What message are you trying to convey? And for me, forever, I was just like, I'm just trying to convey that you can be a woman and in the Navy. Like, yeah, like I'm feminine and I'm in the Navy and wear a uniform, whatever. And then I think through maturity, like especially these last couple of years, I've realized that a lot of my following is young girls. And so, although you're right, I could wear a nice cocktail dress with a deep V cut and then I can post pictures of my martini. I'm allowed to do that. I'm of legal age. I'm, a grown woman. I can celebrate a birthday. But depending on what that picture is, what message is that conveying? Like if you are sticking your tongue out and partying, some little girl's like, well, that's interesting. But then if you're being classy about it and like, hey, like girls' night, celebrating successes in her life, you're like, girls' night, yeah, that's great. Celebrate successes. It's just all about the message. And so I carry that throughout my Navy one and on my personal one. If it's modeling, it's tasteful. It's not lewd, suggestive sorts of things. If it's a swimsuit photo, again, what message am I conveying? Am I just trying to show off my body? I'm allowed to do that. I work very hard for it, but I'm not trying to do it in like a sexual way. Like I'm trying to do it more in like a physically fit sort of way. With the Navy, I'm very particular about what photos I post in civilian clothes because yes, I'm allowed to wear crop tops on my own time and two-piece jumpsuits. But again, that's not necessarily like the professional message I'm trying to convey through my Navy Instagram. So I'll post it on my personal one because it's fine. So I'd say it's a lot about message and your branding. And you're exactly correct, which I really appreciate. I want my branding to come off classy. I want to be 27 years old, fun, feminine, funky, but also be recognized as an entrepreneur, as a woman of intellect. So I don't want that to be confusing because often I feel like women just are like, ooh, that's a great photo of me, share, and it can be really confusing. So the fact that you gather that from my social media without even knowing me, that means I'm doing something right. So I'm happy about it.
You are, for sure. Absolutely. And I think, social media is such a great platform to be able to connect like we have, to be able to share your messaging. I know you do so much for the Navy to be able to share that I'm a woman and I'm feminine and all that, as you say in your bio, the juxtaposition of those diverse backgrounds of what it is to be a young woman, and you're carrying the torch for both of them so well and definitely depicting that. So, and that I know that Miss California USA is sort of the next thing on your radar. So what does that look like? I know you compete in January. If you move on, and I'm gonna like whatever I do I vote? I don't know, I'm not American, but I would if I was there. But whatever, like what is the next thing for you once you become Miss California? See, I'm foreshadowing that for you already. How does it proceed to Miss USA, and what is the time frame for you?
So a time frame, I compete in January. If/when I'm crowned, I would go on to compete in Miss USA in May. It's typically held toward like the middle or end of May. So short window of time to prep and get ready for the Miss USA stage, but really I feel like the last 3 years I've been competing, like now we're really just finessing. We're not reinventing the wheel, so I feel like I'm ready for that short, condensed timeline. But ultimately, something I've had to learn is you're not going to the judges, you're not going to Miss California and saying like, I am an established public speaker and I've spoken at, I've done TED Talks and I have 50,000 followers and I have an organization branded by blank. Like what you're coming to them with is inspiration, passion, and idea, and you're selling them on that because it's their job and it's Miss California platform's job to brand you and expose you to other opportunities. So really what I'm trying to convey are my qualifications. I would love, and I've been working on this for a long time, my ultimate goal is to be a morning talk show host. I've always wanted to, my entire life, I've always wanted to be a morning talk show host. Yeah. And the reason is because I love people and everything that I've kind of dabbled in has to do with helping, inspiring, telling people stories, building their confidence. And so I love Katie Couric and Hoda Kotb, and I'm like, I want to be them. But you have to go through life and experience life before you can do that. So that's the ultimate goal, which Miss California helps project you toward. It gets your name on the map and gets you introduced to people in the industry. But right now, as 27, 28, 29-year-old Kellie, I would love to be an active public speaker in schools and communities nationally, on morning shows and doing a lot of appearances about this message of the power within. Everything that I have done, it's not because I'm just like this gifted Olympic athlete or this Gigi Hadid level model. It's because I had confidence and I believed in myself and I sought a mentor to do it, and then I did it. I just went for it. I don't start any project unless I'm ready for it. I don't do anything halfway. Like if I'm going to do Miss Ohio, I'm going to do Miss Ohio. If I'm going to do Miss California, I'm going to hire a trainer. I'm going to do everything I need to do to be Miss California. So I feel like a lot of women, they first don't have that confidence. They don't recognize that confidence. And then if they do recognize that power within them, they don't know what to do with it or how to move forward. They're just like a really good cook. And they're like, ooh, like I could really be a great blogger, but like I just don't know how to do it, so I don't do it. And so I want to, implement my processes and be a speaker on a national level about how to use that power within that we all have, because we all have the ability to be multifaceted and really maximize our potential. So that's where I would love to take it, whether it's a podcast or a morning show or just be a public speaker nationally. So I'm hoping that Miss California will help me with that, because it is such a large organization and platform.
Oh yeah, you will. I mean, inevitably, you're going to get the profile for sure at a higher level, which is exciting. Like, I almost feel like saying, brace yourself, girl, because it's going to be exciting.
I hope so.
Oh, I think so for sure. But I also love what you said, Kellie, because, I'm a mom of young girls that are just a little bit younger than you. And there's all this talk about women's empowerment. And I love what your parents have done. I love that it's not about being a boy or a girl. It's about being a human being and maximizing your potential while you're here on this beautiful, epic journey we call life. And some of which I just want to come back a little bit to, a couple things that you said. And that is that you prepared as best you could for all these different things you've participated in. But then at some point, there's just that leap of faith that says, the rest I'm going to figure out as I go. And I think that by doing that, it continues to build your confidence so that you end up in this place where you are that says, yeah, you know what? It's scary. It's new. I haven't done this particular thing before, but I've done all these other things and I was okay. And I learned and I grew. And now I'm doing these other things. So can you speak to that a little bit? The experiential part of just doing. Just
Right.
like saying, okay, I planned as much as I can, and now I'm just going to do it and see how the chips all fall.
Well, it is a lot of faith, taking a leap of faith, but also believing in yourself. Like I'd say the first thing joining the Navy, I was like, I know I can do this. Like I am physically fit. I am a leader. Like I have a voice. I don't care that I'm 5'2". Like people will listen to me, and people tried to change me, but I was like, no, I can do this. And so like that, believe in yourself first, even with all the bumps in the road. And now I feel like I'm really succeeding as a naval officer, but it took 10 years. And then my business, for example, photography, I could have just kept it as a hobby, but I was like, I kind of want to legitimize this. I can do that. Like I'm seeing all these photographers on Instagram, and it's difficult, but like if you put the work into it, it's not unattainable. So I did that, and you know what? I'm never going to take my business full time. I know that. I don't want to. I love keeping it as a passion, and so it hit a level that I was comfortable with, and I have kept it there. But I still have learned so much about business by being a business owner, and then that transferred into recruiting that I later got into, or modeling. I got into modeling through Miss Ohio USA a couple years ago. But the reason why I did it isn't because my goal is to be Kendall Jenner. It's because I want to know how to carry myself. I want to know how to be better in front of the media. I want to know how to do my makeup and my hair, because you have to have all those things complete for appearances. And so just that in itself and those connections have built me as a professional as well. And then lastly, of course, the pageantry. I just knew there's nothing negative that's going to come from competing. So through all of those things and being multi-passionate, I would stress about, I had to pick one and really excel at it. Like now I have to be an admiral in the Navy. Now I have to be a 6-figure photographer. Now I need to be Gigi Hadid. Like if I'm not doing those things, I failed. And I think that's the mentality. But after all of that reflection and now moving into 27, I'm like, maybe I was supposed to do all of those things because I'm supposed to speak about all of those experiences. Because out in the world, there are entrepreneurs who only want to be entrepreneurs, or there are models who only want to be a model, or there are women whose sole focus will be pageants and they'll go on to be Miss Universe, or maybe it's just the Navy and it's finding identity in the Navy. But I had to piece all those packages together in order to be a vessel for that personal development aspect and be a public speaker. So, once you find your lane, maximize the heck out of it and go for it, but also remember to do it at a level you're comfortable with. Like, I feel like you need to stop competing with everyone around you. And if you're not a 6-figure photographer, you're still fine. You could still be super successful and love life and have time and see your family and do whatever you want to do. But whatever your goal is, chase it and then own it, and then don't compare with other people. So I'm okay with not being a full-time photographer or not being a full-time model or whatever I'm doing. I think it was my ultimate path to be a speaker on all of those topics. And I was supposed to learn from every little aspect of those because they're all so different in order to make me this like multifaceted public speaker.
You haven't done a TED Talk yet though, right?
I have not. Woo, that would be a nice little goal.
I know you mentioned it earlier and I was like, no, I didn't see that anywhere. So here's the question. If you were to do a TED Talk, what do you think you would do a TED Talk on? Like what would be your idea worth spreading? Because you've got so much under your belt already for 27, so many incredible things. And as I've mentioned earlier, you are such a role model for girls your age and older and younger. So what if you got that chance, which I don't doubt that at some point you're going to, that'll be on, I'm sure that's on your bucket list already. What would your topic be, do you think?
The first thing that comes to my mind is like, I would start with the entire room's eyes closed. And I would tell them, draw what you envision as a naval officer. And the next thing would be write down what you would expect Miss USA's SAT score to be. And the next thing I would say is, an entrepreneur, what does their income look like or something like that? And I can almost guarantee you they would draw strongman in uniform, Navy SEAL. They would probably say, oh, SAT score, I bet it's, 500 in every level, or something maybe below average even. Or they would say, oh, an entrepreneur, they make on average $35,000 a year, something like that. And I would go into, like, it's more than meets the eye. Like, the world has put us into these bubbles of what you think each thing has to be. Like, you think a naval officer has to be this guy, but it could be funky 5'2" woman. And guess what? She's just as qualified. Or you think pageant girls are just dumb and ditzy and have no plan. But the current Miss USA passed the bar in 2 states. And the prior Miss USA was a nuclear scientist. Like, that's not, stop pigeonholing us into this one thing. The last thing would be entrepreneurship. That's actually a trick question because you could be an entrepreneur and make anywhere from $200 to $200,000 and still be successful. Doesn't matter. So my TED Talk will probably be about those. Like, as a society, we need to change the way that we're approaching people, organizations, what we think we know about entrepreneurship, things like that. Because once we become more open-minded, then we start reflecting on that power within and others, and we start empowering others. And you know what? If someone who's not your atypical body type says they want to model, tell them go model. Because guess what? We need those people too. Like, the industry is so diverse. So probably would be something about that, but that's just off the top of my head.
I love it. That'd be so good. That'd be so good.
Thank you.
I think that the fact that you're this little itty bitty 5'2" freaking powerhouse is is so beautiful. And you're modeling. I think it's great. And I think that social media is doing a lot to change what has traditionally been the top model of, 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet
Right.
tall, because you're right. There is this beautiful diversity. And I think that you're also doing such a phenomenal job of showing what strength can look like in this really different package. Then it's not just one thing. It's multifaceted, and good for you for doing that. You talked a little bit about the fact, stay in your lane and don't compare yourself. And Kellie, that's huge at all ages. And because of social media, everybody's flipping and scrolling, and
Right.
you from time to time can get trapped in that comparison trap. What do you do to keep yourself in your own lane? What do you do to continue to finesse who you are? Do you ever get distracted by what you deem to be like, comparing yourself to other people? And how do you bring yourself back if you do?
I would say it sounds easier said than done, but on social media, like, I think you are who you follow. And if you are following all of these people and you're comparing them and they have unrealistic body types or messages or branding, or, a lot of these influencers there's articles out there about how they're going into thousands of dollars of debt because they're trying to maintain an image. And so you have to remember all those things. I unfollow people all the time because if you're not evoking passion from me or inspiration or happiness, if I'm not happy for you, why am I following you? Am I jealous of you, or am I comparing? I don't want to compare myself to anyone. So unfollowing those people, that's important. And I think this comes with maturity, by knowing your goals and knowing your intent. And intent is huge, absolutely huge, because everything that I've done has been with the intention of inspiring others or being true to myself. I'll speak on a quick story about the way that I dress and how it's very not popular with other members of the Navy because it's unconventional. So when I was at the Naval Academy, we actually have this system where you give feedback online, peer feedback. And it's supposed to be like, oh, you're motivating and you're encouraging and you're inspiring. And when I was a freshman at the Naval Academy, civilian clothes weren't allowed. So my freshman, sophomore year, I was wearing the potato sack uniform, looking real great. I'd still put on my makeup, but no one knew I had a figure, how small I was, or anything like that. And then come junior year, and during those years, people would say, motivating, rank her #1 in the company, she's a powerhouse, blah, 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 blah. All of these guys. Well, by junior year, I could wear civilian clothes, and my peer feedback would come back. And I am not kidding. In my junior year, I received 32 veins. I was vain because now I'm wearing cute dresses and sweaters and I'm putting my hair down, and I never changed. I was literally always the same person, but you put someone in and out of uniform and their perception changes of you. But I knew my intent. My intent was not, I'm not trying to get dates left and right over here. I'm not trying to be, a model on Friday night or, whatever it is. I like dressing nice. Like, I love fashion and I love beauty and I love, pairing the trends and going shopping. Like, that's a huge passion of mine is fashion. And so I was like, I know my intent. I know how it would be easier if I just wore like a baggy sweater and put my hair up and no makeup. Like, it would have been easier, honestly. But I think it's really okay that I feel confident in a nice pair of heels and a dress. There's nothing wrong with that. So again, that theme carried all throughout with my intention of people would say, you shouldn't wear makeup, you shouldn't do this, why are you competing in a pageant? All of it was either, the intention was it's helping me build my character, it's helping me to inspire others, it's making me really happy, and it's motivating me, and that's why I was doing all of those things. So the perception, people will say things about you, or who does she think she is that she can model, or who does she think she is that she can enter a pageant? And I say the haters will always be louder than the lovers. They always will. And guess what? when you stop listening to them, suddenly they stop talking because it's not fun for them anymore. And that's pretty much what I've done over the last 5 years is, I delete negative comments or I block people and they get real upset about it. And I'm like, look, if you're just going to talk crap about all my photos, I don't want you to follow me. Like, don't follow me. And then all of a sudden it's, oh no, I didn't mean anything about that. I'm like, interesting. But I just don't give them that power, but you have to reflect on the intent because at the end of the day, what you are trying to do is all that matters. And if it's in a positive light, then, keep pushing for it, keep going for it, because people will always have things to say, and usually they don't know you at all. So thank God I didn't listen to any of the haters because I wouldn't have been anywhere close to where I'm at in my career if I listened to them.
Honestly, like that's so powerful, actually, Kellie, to know there's your TED Talk right there.
There you go.
Like honestly, it's the same person with the same passions under the burlap sack that you were wearing for the first however many years.
Yeah.
And then what an interesting study of human behavior and human perception. And kudos to you. I love what you said. I love that you carefully select who you follow. It's kind of like, even though it's social media, you do become who you associate with in some way.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so good for you for being selective about that, and good for you for blocking people and just not getting yourself deeper into the wormhole of the negativity. It's true, haters are going to hate, and that has nothing, it's no reflection of you. You're just doing your thing. So I really think that's phenomenal advice, because I'm sure that young girls can get caught up in both following people that maybe aren't reflective of who they would aspire to be in the best way.
Or benefiting them.
Yeah, or benefiting them. I love that. That's so great. I have just a couple more questions for you really quickly.
Yeah,
okay, one more, and I want to be respectful of your time, but one more question that I have for you is, to get to this level of maturity, I'm sure that it's everything that has molded you for sure. Your parents, the Navy, your experiences, your track running, the discipline that comes with being a competitive athlete, your boyfriend, like all these things have molded you. But on a regular daily basis, do you do personal growth? Is there stuff that you listen to? I know you've mentioned a couple of podcasts, but do you do that on a regular basis where you're expanding your mind, your personal growth?
I do. And you know what? It wasn't really until recently. I think that I was around my circle of friends, especially in Ohio. They were just so supportive and inspiring. But then on that outside, I had the ring of entrepreneurs and influencers and business people I was also connecting with, so they would inspire me. And then on the outside of that, I was following people who were doing big things, and that was inspiring me. So for a while, that really filled my cup, and I'm like, oh, like I'm challenging myself, and I'm challenging myself physically, and I'm doing a pageant, and I'm doing collaborations. But since moving, I have to make new friends again, and I have to make new connections again. So you can only inspire yourself so much when you're alone. You have to figure out a way to fill your cup again. So I've been following and listening a lot to the She podcast. It's by Jordan Lee Dooley. I was actually just listening to her right before my phone call with you. And she is so similar to me. A former Miss Ohio USA, Megan Ray Wise, sent her podcast to me and said, "This is you." And I think she's in her early 30s, but strikingly similar. She was an entrepreneur and a photographer and an influencer and social media coordinator and book writer, publisher. Like, she did all of these things, and now she's funneled into a personal development podcast. So I love that, because not only do I have a lot in common with her, but it's almost like she's like 5 years ahead of me, and so I can get things on track right now before I get to 5 years ahead of me.
Right.
So when I have time, I love reading books. I love there's Thrive by Ariana Huffington, and that's probably my favorite one. And then this one by Megan Kelly. Settle for More. Just women that that inspire me. So things like that. But I don't do too much. I don't think. Just podcasts are easy because you can listen to them when you're driving and everything.
Yeah, but you know that that's still like food for your mind. So good for you for doing that on a regular basis. So this is all about, I believe she's amazing. And one of the reasons why I agreed, or why I started this whole thing, is because there are so many phenomenal women around. And although you have definitely got a growing presence online, you're not
Like Insta famous. Yeah.
famous yet. I mean, I'm sure that'll happen for you at some point, but it's bringing awareness to somebody like you who has all these amazing qualities and other people don't yet necessarily know about you. Who do you believe is amazing? Who has been that significant female role model to you? They don't have to be famous, they can be famous, it doesn't matter. Just who are the amazing women in your life that have sprinkled that dust and helped to define who you are today?
And I want to mention more than one. Okay, perfect. So I'll be concise about it. I'd say number one is my mother. She pretty much laid down the foundation for everything for me. I recently wrote about it in an article as well. She, without even knowing, the best advice I give to young women is don't just listen to your mother, but actually believe what she's saying. Because I just so happened to believe her. I could have ignored everything she was saying. I was like, yeah, mom. But like I believed her. And she would say, you're capable of amazing things, or you're so smart, or you're so beautiful. And back then I wasn't. Like I was so awkward and buck-toothed and scrawny. I was like, thanks, mom. So I grew up to believe I was beautiful. And now I feel confident, but I'm like, I look back then and I was like, gee, I really thought I was beautiful. So she really just told me I was capable of maximizing my potential, and I could not just be class secretary, but be class president, and not just be at a D1 college, but go to the Naval Academy. And I was just like, okay, cool. So I love that. So I encourage, all women, whoever you're mentoring or influencing, whether you're a mom or a sister or a daughter, to be that person for someone, because people need people to believe in them. And so she laid the foundation for me, built all my confidence growing up. Say secondly, one of my peers and my closest friends who inspire me, her name's Mariah Payne. She's been runner-up in Miss Ohio for a few years now. And here I think I have problems and troubles, but she's overcome so much as a pageant girl and a model in New York Fashion Week and a dreamer, but comes from a family that just doesn't understand how big she's dreaming. So it was quite the opposite of me. They don't understand the modeling, they don't understand the pageantry. So she's out like attacking the world, and I'm like, if she can do that and only be fueled within, I can do that, and I have this whole support team behind me. So being best friends with someone in your circle who is motivating you, so important. So I'm so thankful for her. And then lastly, I'd say my famous person would be Katie Couric, because whenever I was living in Italy, that's when September 11th happened. And my dad was stationed over there, and I only had one TV channel. And that one TV channel happened to be NBC. So I watched her on Today Show for the first time over September 11th. And I realized the importance of someone with honesty and truth in front of the TV, telling the story, how pertinent that is, and how many people need that, how it's such a necessity. And I followed her career for the rest of, really the rest of my life, because 27, I'm still doing it. But she always just led with grace and passion and was genuine. And I had a poster of her on my wall, instead of like Avril Lavigne or Britney Spears. And so, that was what got me started in the media and doing school news, and then now even in public relations. So she was probably like my professional role model, because she really does everything with class, with taste, is a powerhouse, is a boss, but is also very genuine. And that's kind of how I want to come off in my career as well.
Wow, that's so good. I love that you're so clear on who you are today, but you're also clear on who you want to who you want to model yourself after, and that's so awesome. Kellie, I could talk to you for so much more. We might have to do a part 2 or something, because you're just such a delight, and you have so many exciting things that you've already done, but oh my gosh, like so many exciting things yet to do. I'm so excited to watch you. I'm really grateful to be connected to you. I'm grateful for Instagram to have connected us. And I just look forward to following your path and being a part of it in whatever way that is, but just really cheering you on from here. And thank you so much for sharing time with me today.
Thank you. Of course. We'll reconnect potentially after Miss California. And if when I win, then we'll do a recap of that episode.
Yes,
so we'll see.
yes. Yeah, let's do that for sure. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And big hugs to you. Enjoy that Cali life, girl.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining the show today. I appreciate you taking time to watch and meet our special guest, Kellie Hall. Here's all the contact info if you'd like to connect with Kellie. If you know an amazing woman whose story you'd like to share, please contact me at the information above. And always remember, as you take the story with you today, that one person can make a difference. That one person is you.